Welcome to Content Camp.
Hello everybody, indeed. Welcome to our first edition of Content Camp. Today we have special guests. We have Gavin and Amanda. Amanda is his mother. Thank you for being here. It's great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Can you guys share your backstory, please?
Yeah, of course. Gavin, is that okay if I tell it?
Mhm.
Okay. So when Gavin was 2 years old, he was playing in our yard, and he fell off the swing in our backyard, and he hit his head, and he had what's called a traumatic brain injury. And what that meant is that Gavin actually stopped breathing, and he had to be taken to the hospital first by ambulance and then by a helicopter. And when we found out how bad his injuries were, they told us that they didn't think he was going to live. And that was obviously really scary and hard, but the doctors at Riley Hospital saved his life. And we had to decide then if we were going to just be really sad or if we were going to take a really scary, terrible situation and make something good about it. And we chose to do the latter, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
No. So we, our family has decided that we are really, really glad that everything turned out the way it did because Gavin's still here with us. And it's actually been 10 years since that accident happened. It'll be 11 years in just a month. And so every year we celebrate that day of when he was hurt. We celebrate it instead of just being sad. We celebrate it and do something good and put love out into the world. And we call that Moose Day because Gavin's nickname is Moose. And so some of the cool things, Gavin, do you want to tell them like some of the cool things we've done on Moose Day to like put love back in the world?
So some of the things that we do on Moose Day to celebrate the day is we sometimes bring in breakfast for like the doctors, and sometimes we just say thank you for everything that they've done for us.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That's wonderful. So, like, how did it affect different people? Like, I know you have sisters and stuff. Like, that must have affected them differently in different ways. Do you know how that happened or what happened with that?
So Gavin has two sisters. He has Allie, and she's 18, and McKenna is 15. And they both, it affected both of them differently. Right now, I would say the big thing is Allie has chosen to use Gavin's story and for her, what she saw is sometimes kids are really mean to other kids who have disabilities.
Yeah.
And she heard that. We were actually at a cross-country meet. Gavin runs cross-country. And she heard some kids, like, not being very nice, like saying some unkind words. And so she chose, instead of being angry about it, she chose to write a book about disability awareness and inclusion. And so she wrote and published a children's book. And now she goes all around to schools and teaches about inclusion and disability awareness. So I think for Allie, that has been how she's kind of handled and processed this. McKenna was younger when the accident happened, so she just kind of flies and goes along with it and stuff. But I would say for her big thing is she is like Gavin's like buddy. Like she does whatever, and she never lets him get away with anything, right? Like she makes sure that if he needs something, she's got him, and she never lets him like say, I can't do this, or, oh, it's too hard. She's like, shut up, you're fine. You can do this. So she's just been his one that like, she's like, we're going to go ride bikes. And he's like, oh, I can't do that. She's like, yeah, you can. You can ride a bike. And he does. And so I think his sisters have just been there through everything for him, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and when you guys came into the office, you guys brought in a service dog. What has it been like living with a service dog, and like, it's kind of been very different. Sometimes he helps me a lot, like if I'm feeling scared to go somewhere, like going to get a shot and I get scared, Elmer comes with me so I can like pet him and it distracts me. So he helps me in those scary moments.
Yeah, Gavin's had 12 surgeries on his head to try and fix things, and going and doing a surgery on your skull or on your brain is really scary. And as he's gotten older, it's been a lot. So Elmer goes with us, and the nurses love him, and it's really good. So, and then there are times that things are hard for Gavin. So, like, if he can't take his coat off, Elmer can tug the sleeve. And if he can't take his socks off, Elmer can do that. Elmer sometimes picks the socks up off the floor that you just throw there. But I think that's more a feature for me than for you, right? But no, he's a really good boy, and he's been with Gavin for 6 years now. And I think that it's been good to have a companion that no matter what, Elmer's there for him.
Mm-hmm. And not just like going back to the kids being mean thing. It's not just like adults can do that too. Like as a mom, that would be really hard to go through, like other parents judging other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a mom once who told me that he was being too loud, and we were in the grocery store, and she was like, "You should teach him to be quiet." And he had just gotten out of the hospital of a surgery, and he hurt, and he didn't feel good, and everything. And you just realize that sometimes people say mean things, and they don't know that they don't even know. They don't know your story.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we share our story so often. We did a podcast a few years ago with our whole family and our friends and people that love us and doctors. And we wanted to share our story. And we still do it like with you all because we don't want people to feel alone. Like hard things happen, but you're not alone.
And this is a great like teaching thing for kids and adults too. Like things happen, and just because they're like sad or like scary, you like overcome them and make something good out of it. So like, what has it been like to you guys, for you guys, making something good out of a horrible situation?
What do Gavin, can you tell them what we do at dinner every night? What's the question we ask?
Well, it's been a long time since.
Well, okay, right now maybe we have changed our question, but what is the normal what's the question that we do a lot?
What was something good that happened today?
Or what are we grateful for?
Yeah, or what are we grateful for?
Yeah. So at dinner every night, when the 5 of us are together, we say, what are you grateful for?
And we just go around the table doing that together.
Yeah. Because we want to remember that even when days are hard, we can always find one thing to be grateful for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sometimes there are things that we're grateful for is that mom didn't make sauerkraut for dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What was like the turning point of, you said getting on that ladder? Like when did you fully decide like we're going to work at this instead of letting him sit in his situation?
About 15 minutes in. So we have another saying. We have a lot of sayings. It's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But people say, well, what did you do? And our answer is whatever it takes. And that's what it is. And if we need to do anything at all, we will make it work. And I think that's why Gavin is sitting here with us, is because we have found the right people, and he has worked so hard, and we found great people to help him. So we knew right from the beginning that the only option for us was to make sure we could do everything we could. And we have great friends, and we have great family, and we have great doctors and nurses and all those people and therapists. So I do think it took us a little while to figure out how to not let the sad win. Mm-hmm. It's easy to let the sad win at first, but and we talk about this, but Gavin doesn't remember life before the accident. So Gavin was only 2. So we talk about this, but he doesn't remember. This is just what life is,
Yeah.
So I think you have to remember that too when you talk about kids with disabilities. Like they may not know any other way, right? That's just they're not thinking that this is weird. They're like, oh, this is just who I am. I just want you to accept me. I just want you to include me. And I think that's an important thing for people to remember.
Mm-hmm. And like still kids in my grade and I'm in 6th grade have trouble including others, and it's like kind of sad to see like how immature they act in front of their friends, but like how mature they are when they're like by themselves. So I think it like people act different in front of their friends too. So it's like kind of that perspective of they're not mean people. They just want to look cool in front of others.
Gavin, do you think that sometimes kids like say things that like hurt your feelings, but then when you like sit down and talk with them one-on-one, like they're cool? Do you ever have that happen?
Not most of the times.
But do you think that, like, thinking back about some of the times you talk about at school, like where like people will say, they'll like ask you a question about like your disability or whatever, like do you feel like maybe that if you just talk to them, or if they just are willing to talk to you, like they have a better understanding of who you are or what you need?
I feel like if I talk to them, then they listen, then they understand, then they know what to do next.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I know things changed, like physically, like you became left-handed and after. Like, how did that happen? Do you know, like, what reason?
So Gavin's brain remapped. This is really cool. So when you're little, your brain can actually remap, and it can just totally change. So usually, like, the right side of your brain would control your left side, and the left side would control your right side, right? You've got that. But because he had his accident on his left, and the left side got so damaged, the right side of Gavin's brain actually does everything. So when you pedal a bike, your left side goes right foot move, and your right side goes left foot move. But for Gavin, his right side goes left, now right, now left, now right. And it does it all. And it's really cool. It's called brain plasticity. And it's just really cool that you can remap. Like, this is what happened. And Gavin's brain did this on its own. That's what it would. It took a lot of work. You practiced a lot of therapy, don't you? I mean, we actually Gavin was at therapy right before we came here. He still, even 11 years later, still has to do therapy to try and get that motion back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So is you said left was damaged, the left side? So, like, has that recovered in any way, or is it still just the way it was?
So you can't ever grow it back.
Yeah.
But like I said, since all of the stuff went to the right side, that's where it comes in. That's where, like, that's how it works. So the right side just kind of took it up. But you ready for a super cool science story?
Sure.
So Gavin had, because of his surgeries, he had a hole in his skull, literally 2 inches by 4 inches, just a hole in his skull. But he met a surgeon who used this special stuff, and Gavin was able to regrow his own skull bone, which is really cool. It kind of feels scientific, like sci-fi kind of thing, but his bone regrew and filled that hole over using like a really special surgery. And he was like only like the 10th kid to have it done at the time. And it did, and he regrew his own bone, which I think is really cool.
And like I know like there have been a lot of changes. Like has any of it like affected him academically or anything?
He's a pretty good student. He just got like a 23 out of 25 on his math test, so I'm pretty good about that. I think he does great. He will tell you that he doesn't always love school, but I don't know if you guys all love school all the time either. So
I do get some people to help me at school
That's
if
right.
I'm having trouble, like someone that I can talk to if I'm feeling sad, or just someone to talk to if I'm confused in school.
yeah,
So
there are lots of people
I have
at
a lot
his
of help.
school to help. Yep, that's true.
And then you guys brought a book with you that Gavin's sister wrote. Like, have you guys ever gone around and read it, like the other places?
So Allie has. So Allie does that pretty frequently, doesn't she?
yeah, she goes around to different schools and she reads to the grades, and she has like a whole poster and she reads the book to them and talks about disabilities.
Yeah, she does.
And then like has this book like had any effect on with you guys, like in helping like you guys move forward from the situation?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yes. I think that this was just one more level and one more layer of like good things can happen. And now Allie's getting ready to go to college and she's going to go to Butler and she's going to study English. And part of her journey into getting into college was telling her story about writing this book. So I think it's changed so many lives. I know when she reads to kids, they ask lots of questions and she can see them kind of thinking like what you said, like thinking about, oh, am I being kind? Am I, whatever. And she does activities and stuff. So I believe that this book has made a huge change, even for times we don't know about it. It's gone all over the country. There are actually copies across the world and it's in libraries and schools. And so I like to think that like someone read this and thought, oh, that's like me. Or, oh, maybe I should, not like exclude someone. So, yeah, I'm just amazed every day, like how that one really bad day and that one really scary event keeps coming up in our lives and making great things happen.
And I know like we have a disability a week at our school. And we'll go around and we'll learn, like this year for my grade, my class was like blindness and stuff like that. But like, I don't think we've ever talked about like disabilities that you weren't like born with, or like disabilities that happen by a physical change in like your body, or like a brain damage or stuff like that. So like, what was your first thoughts when the doctor came in and told you what had happened and that he might not make it?
I was scared. I was really scared. And it didn't feel real. But thinking about it and thinking about doctors talk a lot about what you can't do. And doctors will say, he won't do this. He won't run. He won't do this. But like the book says, like Moose can too. We focus on what Gavin can do. And Gavin can, do anything he wants to. Like Gavin can run cross country now. Gavin can clean his room sometimes. Gavin can go to school. Gavin can make friends. Gavin can do anything he chooses to. So I think that is what we chose not to focus on all the can'ts, and we chose to focus on being grateful and being there and ready for anything that Gavin can do.
And Gavin, have you ever gone around to like other schools and like talked about what has happened in your situation?
No, but you know what we have done?
No.
We've talked at your school. Do you remember that? It's been a few years, but we talked about like epilepsy in your classroom. Do you remember that? No. Oh, it's okay. So Gavin has epilepsy because of all of this, which means he has seizures. And Gavin has seizures at school sometimes. And so it's important to like let his classroom know, like, hey, this could happen. Like, what do you do if I'm at recess and this is what happens? So we have talked about, so when you get a brain injury, it's a like brain injury, the medical diagnosis that comes from that is called cerebral palsy. It just means I had a brain injury before the age of 2. And so Gavin technically has cerebral palsy, and they call it CP for short. So we talk about that. And then we talk about epilepsy. And yeah, we have talked at your schools, mainly so your classmates like know like what's going on, right?
And I know I go to a Catholic school, and every year or so we have Catholic Schools Week. And on the Friday of Catholic Schools Week, we come to our gym and we say a rosary. And last year we gathered around in a circle, and one kid he just gets seizures randomly, and he had a seizure as he sat down and fell on into somebody's lap, and the person didn't know what was happening. So it was like nobody knew what was happening until he went to the nurse.
Yeah. No, it can be scary. Do you ever, when you have a seizure at school, do you feel scared about it, or are you just like, yeah, this is what I do?
Well, I barely know, like, it just happened, because it's like, I feel like I blink and then I'm on the floor.
Yeah.
And then it's just
People
like,
help you,
you had a
though.
seizure. And I'm like, what?
And people help you out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like what have some of the changes like been like physically and mentally from your point of view since the accident?
For me, I think we are a different family altogether. And it's because we don't think things are quite as important. The same things are important as we did. So now, like, if somebody doesn't get an A on a test, or if your test score isn't, what you thought it was, or whatever, even in my job and what I do and my work and things, things don't feel as big of a deal because we know how quickly things can change, and we know what scary feels like. And so when little stuff comes along, we just say, we can get through it. We can get through anything because we've gotten through hard stuff. We get through hard stuff together all the time because we have each other.
Yeah. And you seem like a pretty brain science whiz person. Were you, before the accident, were you like that, or did you learn a bunch of stuff along the way?
No, I went to school to be a parole officer.
Oh.
So no, this is not my area. I worked in the gang unit of East St. Louis. I worked with parole and probation folks. So no, not where I thought I was going to be. But now I do a lot of nonprofit work, and I've learned a lot. And we've surrounded ourselves with people that can help teach us what we need to know. And now I do a lot of advocacy and a lot of disability things. I worked with service dogs for a long time. Like Gavin has a service dog, so that part was really important to me. Getting people matched up with service dogs and raising money so that could happen. I work in the school system right now, and I try and do a lot of things to make sure that people have a voice and that we can help as many people as we can. So no, I think that you never know where life's going to take you, and you just roll with it.
Yeah.
And where do you think you guys would be like right now if it like this would have been avoided?
Oh my goodness, I had that same thought last night. Isn't that funny? I thought that too, if we didn't have this as part of our story, and I don't know. I cannot even fathom. I cannot even imagine where we would be because I don't know. I thought that same thing, and I could not wrap my head around it last night. I still can't because it's just such a huge part of who we are as a whole family, all 5 of us. Yeah.
And then, Gavin, do you remember like any of it at all?
No, I don't remember anything that happened when I was little when I had my accident.
And like do you guys think of it as like more like a blessing than an accident?
I think we still refer to that day as an accident, but what I think we do is we choose the grateful. We choose to celebrate the good rather than choosing to dwell on the sad.
Yeah. It's a great point. Great point. So how long was like the critical stage of between when it happened and when he was able to like go back to school and be able to learn again?
Well, he was only 2 at the time, so the first thing we had to do was get him to be able to wake up. So we went from him being in a coma to waking up, and then the first thing he had to be able to do was breathe on his own. We had to start we had to start all the way back at breathing on his own, and then he had to learn how to swallow, and then he had to learn how to hold his head up, kind of like an infant, like how you start right from the beginning. But he was 2, so we had to like reset and do all those things again. So everything that he learned, he had to relearn again. So every time the doctors would say, we don't think he'll be able to breathe on his own, and then he did. And then we don't think he'll be able to swallow on his own, And then he did. And he just kept going. And I remember about 2 weeks after he had his last surgery. So it was probably like 3 weeks after the incident. They had him at the park and they got him to walk. And I just couldn't believe that we were there after only just a few weeks. And he did. And he surprised everybody. So it at the time it felt like it was going really slowly, but now looking back, he made a lot of progress really quickly.
Yeah.
And Gavin, do you think kids might like treat you differently if it didn't happen? But like, do you like how you're treated now?
Yeah, I still think I'm getting a lot of help.
Yeah.
With
I think it's probably hard for you to envision like not having CP or not having epilepsy, right? Because that's just like it's just like telling you that you have brown hair. Like it's just the same. Gavin's accident made his eyes be two different colors. So one eye has two colors in it. It's half green, half blue. Mm-hmm. And again, it's the same thing where like that's just what it's been. That's the only thing he knows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think that people treat you differently because of your disability?
No.
Not really.
Yeah.
And I've heard people like call it like people with a disability disabled. Like they're not disabled to do things; they're able to do it, but just in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you just need extra help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
That's how we see it too.
the part like the disability makes it seem like they're incapable of doing things by themselves, which isn't always the case.
No, I think there's a lot of ways you can find how you can do something. Again, it's kind of that idea of like, we don't look at what we can't do. We look at what we can do, right? Sometimes we think about, we might need extra help or we might need extra time or we might need, like we call those accommodations. So accommodations are important for people, not even just with a disability, but like, I mean, we may need accommodations because, we are like for all kinds of reasons. It doesn't necessarily mean just for a disability, but I think that's a good way to look at it. It's that you still can do it. You just have to figure out what you need to get there.
Yep, that seems like a great ending point, great point of view. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, I warned Louis before taping that ending a show is one of the most difficult things to do. I hope you enjoyed as he just kind of crashed and burned a little bit on trying to nail that ending. It's very tough. His first time ever. Great job, Louis. At any rate, thank you for watching our very first episode of Content Cap. I know that it seems like it can't possibly be true, but the crew behind today's show, Landon, Louis, Kennedy, and Tiberius, only got together as a unit about an hour before the taping of the very first show, the show that we did today. They did all the production, the scripting of questions, the live video editing, the audio engineering. I think they did a fabulous job. And maybe most importantly, we all had a lot of fun. Today was very, very fun. We will be getting together next week for episode 2, and I can't wait. By the way, I want to thank so much Amanda and Gavin for sharing their story with us today. Inspiring doesn't even feel like a strong enough word to describe their story. So thank you for your time today. Lastly, if you know of a child who is beyond 5th grade and who might really like to join our crew over here at Content Camp and just see what this is all about, please reach out to me. We are very happy to have guests anytime. Thanks again for watching our very first video, and we will see you on the next one.